Okay. Let's move on to the next item. The 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the review of collected public comments. You want to explain how we're going to proceed with this, Rob, with this?
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll just give you some background. I think most of you are familiar with what we've been working on over the last year and a half, and especially over the last several months. Basically, we began in earnest the process of developing a revision or revised comprehensive plan at the beginning of the year 2020. We hired the consultant design workshop, set a schedule, of public hearings and meetings and workshops, and I, really began the process with the kickoff in March 2020, and then all of a sudden everything shut down around us. And so at that point it became a challenge. How do you continue with the comprehensive plan, which relies very heavily on public input and working with the public, engaging the public's concerns and for the county. We proceeded that summer and into the fall with a few public workshops that were virtual, online. We had a lot of people who participated who recognized that the demographics, when we started to look at how people filled out the surveys, we were not necessarily getting a good representation of the county's population. So we also, in October of 2020, held 3 in-person socially distanced workshops, one at Burton Wells Park at the Senior Center, one at Buckwalter Recreation Center, and then one at Frizzell Hall at Penn Center on St. Helena Island. Those were held, I believe, the 27th, 28th, 29th of October. From all that input and from working with the consultant, we developed a draft, which was unveiled in April of 2021. If you remember, we had design workshop, give a presentation. It became available online, and we gave each of our commissioners a copy of the plan, notified the public, so that really began the process of gathering public input on the draft plan. It became apparent to us that we just were not happy with the amount of public input. Certainly, people spoke to this board, making that very concerned that, this was, we did not get, enough input from the community and certainly from, certain parts of the community. And so we felt it was important to, rather than simply open up a period of public comment and receive comments, make the revisions and then ask the Planning Commission to take action on the document, we held several more public workshops in the community that were very well attended. We had one at Burton Wells Park. We had followed up 2 days later at the library on St. Helena Island. And then also Councilman Glover and Councilman Somerville held a public hearing or public meeting on June 24th, which the main focus was the comprehensive plan. Through all that, and just kind of giving you the background of how we got to this point, we got over 250 comments. It's really hard to gauge because we had very long letters that brought up many different issues, and I received emails that had one specific concern that somebody had. But what we did, and I put all the credit to Libby Anderson and Juliana Smith, is that we took each one, documented, and then came up with a decision of how we want to move forward. We really wanted to defer to each of the comments and make sure that they are addressed properly in a plan. Some of these comments led to major changes where we added a recommendation or made some significant changes. Some of the comments led to, I would say, minor revisions, wordsmithing, a few word changes here and there to provide some clarification. Some of them were more, typos. We still had a few of those. And then general comments. Sometimes people would say, I'm very concerned about traffic, and so it wasn't necessarily one leading to a specific change in the document, but we certainly wanted to document that comment. And so that's kind of how they are arranged in the spreadsheet that you all have received in your packet, and it is also part of the public agenda. With these comments, we have, I would say, some major themes arose. I mean, obviously, there are many different comments that were made that can't be categorized, but some of the prevailing themes that we received, one had to do with affordable housing. This is something that the county has been really grappling with, I would say, for the last 25 years, as we've grown exponentially, have grown from a kind of a rural county to an urbanized county, and housing affordability has been a concern all along. And there have been many actions taken, but it's something that requires a lot of very comprehensive strategy and a lot of different actions. So it's something that we're always attentive to make sure we're addressing in the plan. So we've made some revisions to the plan addressing affordable housing, the comments that were made. One specific issue that came up during this period was protection of historic cemeteries. We have many historic cemeteries in our rural areas. Many of them are African American cemeteries. A lot of these are either on private, on lands that are owned by someone else, but they're required, state law requires access to those cemeteries. We want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect the cemeteries, to make sure that they, if there are opportunities for them to be transferred to a group that is responsible for taking care of the cemeteries, we want to make sure that all these steps are taken. We think that there's room for improvement in our community development code to protect or provide buffers, where you have a cemetery on a private lot, and making sure that we're emphasizing public access. Heirs property became a big issue, and that's always been one in Beaufort County. We have, properties that have been owned by generations of families, but the title is not clear, and it becomes an issue, through work concerns about taxes, concerns about one family member cashing out and selling the property. And so we want to do everything we can to promote the protection of heirs property and keep family properties with families. Sand mining, this has always been a concern, especially in our rural areas, because we all need fill, or developers, home builders need fill to, for development, and they go for where land is least expensive. A lot of times that is in our rural areas. In places like St. Helena Island, this is changing the landscape. I mean, there's a lot of ancillary impacts of sand mines, everything from the actual trucks who are moving dirt to the creation of all these new ponds that didn't exist, to the loss of dry ground. I mean, it's a real alteration of the landscape, and that's something that we want to make sure that we address moving forward. We obviously have standards now, but as anything, they always need to be reevaluated to make sure that we're preserving, the community and surrounding areas, the environment. Water service, this is an issue, and we do have a more extensive public water going into our rural areas, but we do have underserved parts of the county. And so some areas specifically came up, such as Warsaw Island, Seabrook Stewart Point area. So we want to make sure that we are taking every step necessary in the plan to provide that service, whether it's for fire protection or for safe drinking water, that we're taking all the necessary steps to address public water where it's needed in the county. And then finally, equity became it was a very common concern. This is one of the three major pillars of the plan, kind of recognizing that Beaufort County, we're recognized as a great place to live, great quality of life, natural beauty. But if it's not accessible and available to everyone who lives here, then that's very much a concern of us in this plan, that we're making sure that through our actions, we're promoting equity and promoting the enjoyment of this county, the ability to thrive here, for all residents and not just for those who can afford, properties in those areas. So that's kind of a lead up to have an overview of what we've been hearing from the public. Obviously, there are a lot of different comments. How we would like to proceed tonight. In the packet, there are countless pages of comments in the spreadsheet. And I'm hoping that you've all had a chance to look at them. They're available to the public for anyone who links to the agenda for this meeting. We're going to try to, so the comments, as I mentioned earlier, are divided up by comments that lead to new changes to the plan, whether they're new recommendations, new parts of recommendations, minor revisions, general comments, and then corrections, which are sort of the typos and wordsmithing. Our goal is to go through the new comments with the trust that you all have had a chance, if you want to delve into the other ones. Most of them are wordsmithing, they're not substantive changes. And so we were going to go through those tonight, and our goal is to get some direction from the Planning Commission as to what we're recommending as staff as ways to address these comments. Is that what you want us to then present to our consultants so they can make the revisions to the plan, and then the plan would then come back to the Planning Commission to take action at the September meeting? So that's kind of what we're hoping to accomplish tonight, and we're...
So tonight, we're not taking a final vote, we're just we're making a recommendation to forward these on to the consultant
Yeah.
to include the comments that have been provided and the comments and the suggestions.
Yes.
And then in September, we will see this again for a final vote. It'll be a public meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes through the review process, ultimately to Natural Resources.
Yeah, so I mean,
And then,
it would go from Planning Commission, and I believe that it is September 9th. It's the Thursday after Labor Day,
okay,
which, because we have a holiday on Monday. Then it would go to the October Natural Resources Committee, and then 3 readings of council. So each one of those is a public meeting.
I wanted this documented and understood so the public knows where the access points are, because this doesn't close off public comments. What it does is forward the process ultimately to a vote by county council as is mandated by the state of South Carolina. There is always an opportunity, even beyond that closure, to amend the comprehensive plan. It needs to be brought before the commission and the staff, and recommendations and comments, and we go through a process much like we're going to tonight. So it doesn't close off the discussion. It allows the discussion to take on more grain detail as it goes forward, recognizing that the comprehensive plan is a high-level strategic document that has critical parts. Beyond, there's an expectation for an action plan that identifies the who, what, when, how we're going to do these things, and sets a priority and responsibility to ensure that that happens. And I think that's an important message that I wanted to make sure the public understands, because that's the process that we go through here. With that said, did you want to go through more at this point on your comments, or would you like the commission members to comment?
I guess that's up. I mean, I guess if there's any questions from the commission up to this point.
Okay, commissioners, questions?
I'm just going to make a general comment on affordable housing. And I don't know if this is in priority order or, based on the number of comments. I don't know how this list was compiled. But, my only suggestion is I think the county's got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what it wants. Because obviously, whatever it wants, it hasn't been in any way successful in getting anywhere with affordable housing, and an awful lot of work and effort has gone into it. So, I really think, you're at a crossroads now with the comprehensive plan. I think you have to really stop and go back and relook at it, and, define it, and what are the components of it? Is it affordable housing or is it workforce housing? We hear different terms. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're 20 years or more into this thing. God knows how much money's been spent. And can we point to a unit of housing that somebody would define as affordable? I think, and there's not a criticism at all. I just, a lot of effort, a lot of time went into this and all. And I think you got to rethink the whole approach. There's a lot of grant money out there and all, and I think you got to engage the private sector. I am a member of Marriott, and I was at a Marriott meeting for owners, and the guy was complaining that he couldn't hire people because there's no housing. I said to the guy, I said, really? I said, you got 9 Marriotts on Hilton Head here. Did you ever think of opening up a dormitory-style housing or doing something on your own? You got hotels built all over the country, and you're standing here blaming the county because you don't have a place. You can't hire workers because there's no place for them to live. But it's not their fault, it's your fault. You keep building hotels here, you keep expanding your services and everything, and you think that it's the government's job to come in and solve a problem that you have? I said, I disagree with you. And that's just one aspect of it. So I think, I know a lot of work's gone into it and all, and I know a lot of people are really serious about it, but I think you gotta rethink the whole
How would
thing.
you advise us to do that? if
I
you
don't
want us
know,
to
I'm not an
rethink?
expert at it.
So you're just
Eric.
making a comment, you don't have
I
any
said that.
solution?
That's.
Right, okay.
No, I don't have a solution. And I don't think there is one right now.
I
you
think the
gotta find it.
solution would be, if I might tell you, and I don't know if the comp plan speaks to this or not, because I'm looking at a very small excerpt there. But you all know that many months ago, we hired a consultant to set up a regional housing trust fund. And they have completed their work, and we are getting ready to undertake presenting that work to the Southern Lowcountry Regional Board that is going to offer several comprehensive options for dealing with affordable housing. I hope the comp plan talks about the Regional Housing Trust Fund. Again, I'm not sure what these
It
bullet
does.
points are.
It
Okay,
does.
that's good. And that work is nearing completion right now. And that is going to be the process that takes us from doing dozens of affordable housing units per year across the county to doing hundreds of affordable housing units per year. It's been very successful in other jurisdictions, and it will be successful in Beaufort County as well. So I don't know what else we can do to go back to the drawing board on that. That is going to be the solution for our region. So.
I think the document does go into quite a few factors to propose strengthening and moving forward on affordable housing, including reestablishing the Affordable Task Force, which was multi-departmental, met with affordable housing in the community, and came up with ways, incentives that were passed last year on, I think, Zone C5. And hopefully those incentives will be expanded to more zones. I think the situation has become overly critical,
It is, yeah. I
where
agree.
it's been exacerbated by the pandemic, where prices have skyrocketed in homes, and that's pushed rents up, and it's pushed people away from an affordable.
I was down on Hilton Head Island all weekend with the Association County Conference, and we're hiring signs everywhere whenever you went out to eat and all over the island. And, there's a struggle. But there's a plan for dealing with that. We're going to address that, and there will not be necessarily an affordable housing task force. There will be a board that will be appointed from the various jurisdictions as a part of the Regional Housing Trust Fund that will convene on a regular basis and hear the needs and review projects and make recommendations as to which projects get funded, how they get funded, and what things will be eligible for the funding. So.
And this program has been very successful in other cities.
Oh, yeah, very, very much so. Greenville did one, and they took about $3 million investment in the first year or two and turned it into a $43 million funding opportunity for them. So I'm real excited about that. I spend a lot of my time working on that. Even as county administrator, I'm still the one that's leading that charge because it is very important to me, something I'm passionate about, and it's something that I think needs to be solved for the future balance of growth and opportunities in our county for everyone. So I think we're headed in the right direction there. So anyway, so stay tuned.
Thank you, Mr. Greenway. Other questions from commissioners?
Just comments. Rob, on the same subject, the affordable housing, there are other municipalities that rely on density bonuses. Mm-hmm. And there was a time here when we had something similar to that, and then it was taken away. What is the new comp plan's stand on density bonuses?
Well, the comp plan recommends readdressing density bonuses. We currently, as Eric said, we have one that only applies to C5. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is to look at the other districts and look at what is appropriate for different parts of the county.
Good.
Yeah.
It works. And it doesn't take government money. It's a public-private partnership, which is the best kind, in my opinion.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
More questions? Comments, commissioners?
In just affordable housing, Ed, or can I go into another topic?
Any question you might have of Mr.
Oh, okay.
Merchant here?
All right, so I'm reading off of this, this document now, not the stuff I read before. I was at a meeting at Penn in which the Center for Heirs Property Preservation presented about their project with the Open Land Trust on Tom Fripp, I guess it's a Tom Fripp Road in that area. And I just think that on the page 1 of our handout, the item, support the creation of a local office for the Center for Heirs Property Preservation. I think that's a little too prescriptive. I mean, the meeting ended poorly, to be perfectly honest, and I think that there was a lack of trust in that group by some people in the room. It was a little unclear. I mean, I just think it's too prescriptive to say this is the organization that we should rely on to help us solve this problem. I think an organization is good, but I'm a little, I don't know why we're in the business of choosing winners and losers for that job. Like in other areas, you said, get grants. Here's some places where you can get the grants, which I think is completely appropriate. But I just think it's too directed. On the same topic, I think it should be made more clear as a matter of policy that there is maybe a dedicated public meeting once a year, and it's the top of the back of page 1 on our material, where and I've said this all along, more than developing a brochure, like have about heirs property and how to subdivide property, and that would go into cottage industry too. I mean, literally have, make sure that there's a dedicated person on the planning staff or in community development whose half-time job it is to do X, or have a consultant, where people who have that specific query can come ask. I think my experience has been that sometimes when people who have had challenges about figuring out heirs property, of course in their own family, but getting advice from the county. I mean, you guys would know it better than I do, and I'm sure it's come to Hillary too. Just to make the process clear, what resources are available at the county level. So that's just something I think could be made more clear.
There are resources at the county level.
Yeah.
A lot of issues surrounding heirs property are not county
County,
issues.
absolutely.
They are title
Yep.
issues
Yep,
or family
sure.
issues.
Yep.
And, so I think it's something that requires a multifaceted approach. Our goal is to make sure that our rural land use policies, that people understand them and that there's enough opportunity, for people in rural areas. But that's just one part of the equation with heirs property.
Right. I mean, I guess in this, and our role is to say, to lay out, here are the options for developing Ayers property or expanding cottage industry or, Center for Ayers Preservation, the Charleston outfit, one of their options was to like have a model farm and tree farm. That was something they put out, and many in the audience said, I'm not sure our young people want to farm in that manner. Like if there was organic station or a farmer's market associated with it, or why aren't there tennis courts on that land? It gets so, the issues all get conflated and sort of related to one another. So I would love it to be just clear for people who have issues. Here's what the county can offer you. Here's advice.
But I would just say that what we could give advice on is only one part of the equation.
Absolutely, very small part, I get it.
That's why we recommend an organization that specializes in.
Then I guess my recommendation for change would be, we recommend an organization /experts, consultants to be hired by the county or on an as-needed basis, whatever, that the county make that a priority. I mean, others may disagree. I don't have any particular beef against the Center for Ayers property. I'm just telling you about a meeting that ended very poorly when they were running it. So.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's well said. In my district, I see a lot of gentrification with the Ayers property. And a lot of the people don't understand what's going on. They're following the dollar. And like you say, some of the family of the Ayers property are getting left out of the dollar. And developers are coming in and through attorneys and Ayers property experts are gradually taking over a good many of the Ayers property for the highest bidder. And who protects that or who looks at that? And I don't know if this organization would even concern themselves with that, but I would hope that someone has an ear and an eye out for that type of gentrification in Ayers property.
Additional comments?
Just one other thing, Rob, on the general mobility, and I think it's great to have more interest in and access points for everything from kayaks to passenger ferries and stuff. But remember years ago when we worked, and there was an idea with the St. Helena Planning Committee, and there was an idea to float a ferry at the, in the Land's End area, at the way end of Land's End, and sort of Riverside on the way down there. I'd be careful about floating that idea just in general, because I think that did not get a lot of buy-in by Native Islanders.
Yes, we were asked to take on, actually by the Planning Commission, to address the issue of water transportation.
Right.
And I agree, is attractive as it is to use our waterways to get people around, there are a lot of concerns about a ferry system because, especially with the docks. And so that's why the comment is as general as possible.
Okay.
That this is something that we support, but we're not in this plan prescribing we need a dock over in Land's End, which I don't think is.
Right, I just want to make sure that the Planning
I
Commission.
don't think it's going to be feasible.
Knew the background. I mean, you and I know because we worked on it for a long time, but thanks. That's really, I was just asking you to clarify that.
These, to me, would be the kinds of things that would be ironed out in an action plan when you look at water usage or water access, because there's many ways to do that. And the fact that, nearly 45% of our county is either water or marsh lowlands, cries out for what are we doing to ease water access, to provide water access, for whatever reason, fishing piers, kayak launches, dockage, boat ramps, etc. And so that's an area that we need to carefully look at and evaluate, see what's best for the greatest number of people.
Yes, and that's been a theme in our past comp plan, and it's carried forward in this one, is increasing public access to the water. so I agree that that is a big concern for the county. The county is currently undergoing a study of our boat ramps, so we're looking at, different parts of our, water infrastructure and, how to improve them and provide access in underserved creeks, where we don't have access currently. So that is in the plan, as it is now. I think what we do not do is try to say, with ferry service, get any further than saying, this is something that needs to be looked at. But when you start looking at the mechanics of providing water transportation, there are a lot of logistical issues about where the docks are. How do you get people from the docks?
Parking.
I'll just be editorialized, I think critical mass where water so, yeah, the intention was to go through this, but,
Seen this.
okay.
But there's a lot of new stuff in here that I think is really good. I was very pleased to see that some new audiences came to the forefront. The embassy came very strongly with inputs, and I applaud that. I think we can do a lot with the embassy area. There were comments from the Port Royal Sound Foundation regarding water quality and the importance of our waterways and safe waterways and how they protect and nurture our environment for their historic, cultural, and environmental and economic significance. It's our waterways that attract a lot of people to this area. And so there was a lot of newness here that I thought was very useful, and I was pleased to see that it was a positive response from the staff regarding that input. Any other commissioner inputs before I open up to public? Okay, public comments. Please identify yourself, Dawn.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Dawn Page with Low Country Equitable Land and Resource Trust. And I just wanted to go on record and formally thank Chairman Pappas and the rest of the board for your response, for the authentic response to the concerns of the community and the fact that you came back after our first introduction and looking at the comprehensive plan, and that the county and that the planning commission and the staff went back. And I want to thank Rob Merchant and his team for going back and really putting together a robust response and coming back with 3 additional public meetings. And I just want to acknowledge that you listened to your constituents, and I'm very optimistic that we are going to be able to really make the beloved community a reality. And I'm optimistic about the work that we're going to be able to do together. But I do want to thank you on record to say that we appreciate the fact that you have listened and responded. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Yes.